Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of TXN Sports World. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher. Not much on the docket this week. Not much going on in the world of sports as of right now. But we do have, however, the national championship. March Madness has come and gone and went down this past Monday night from NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. UConn topped off one of the most impressive March Madness runs in history on Monday night, clamping down early and breaking it open late to bring home its fifth national championship with a 76-59 win over San Diego State. Adama Sanogo had 17 points and 10 rebounds, and Tristan Newton also had a double-double with 19 points and 10 boards for the Huskies, who became the fifth team since the bracket expanded in 1985 to win all six by double digits on the way to a championship. They won their 6 games by an average of an even 20 points, only a fraction less than what North Carolina did in sweeping to the national championship in 2009. UConn built a 16-point lead late in the first half, only to see the Aztecs trim the lead to 5 with 5:19 left. But Jordan Hawkins with 16 points answered with a 3 to trigger a 9-0 run. And the only drama left was whether UConn would cover the 7.5-point spread and go 6 for 6 with double-digit wins. Keyshawn Johnson had 14 points for San Diego State, which came up 1 win shy in its first trip to the Final Four. Their closest margin of victory, 13 points. And that was against Miami in the Final Four game, in the semifinal game last Saturday. But let's crunch the numbers here. As far as the team numbers and the whole 9 yards, the big numbers here. As soon as I find it, all right. UConn shot 43.4% from the field. San Diego State 32.2%. 3-point range, UConn 6 of 17 for 35.3%. San Diego State was 6 of 23 for 26.1%. UConn 24 of 27 from the free throw line, almost 89% free throw shooting. San Diego State 15 out of 20 for 75%. UConn had the rebounding edge overall, 40-34. San Diego State 12-10 offensive rebound edge. UConn 30-22 defensive rebound edge. UConn 13 assists, San Diego State 7. UConn had 8 steals, San Diego State 7 steals. UConn 6 blocks, San Diego State 2. San Diego State committed 12 turnovers, UConn committed 13. UConn committed 15 fouls, San Diego State 20. No technicals or flagrant. San Diego State's largest lead was 4. UConn's largest lead, 17. This is one of the most impressive runs that I have seen when it comes to a tournament for a national championship. I mean, your closest margin of victory was 13. That's damn impressive. And the UConn Huskies win the national championship, bring it home to the Big East Conference for the first time since Villanova won it in 2018. A 5-year wait. And the national championship is back where it belongs, in the Big East Conference. As a Big East enthusiast, I am more than pleased with how it turned out. And congratulations to Dan Hurley and the crew. 5th national championship to go with the ones they won in 1999, 2004, 2011, and 2014. And now 2023, the UConn Huskies, once again, the national champions. They came out of absolute nowhere. They were nowhere near our projection line. We had no idea UConn was going to go this far. We had UConn maybe going to the Sweet 16 at best, but no, they went all the way and won the damn thing. Beyond impressive. So, absolute dominance from the start of the tournament to the very end. They more than deserve this championship. Hell of a job, gentlemen. Enjoy it, and way to represent the Big East. I couldn't be any more happier. So, not much more to say here. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in, the voice of March Madness. And Well, we didn't have too many screaming Michael Fletcher moments this time around, but what I do know is that just like I was, you had to be equally as impressed with how UConn went all the way and went on this incredible run to a national championship in which they won every game by double digits. Their lowest margin of victory was 13, and here they are as national.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? When was the last time you saw a run this dominant in tournament history?
Man, I mean, maybe you can talk about the 1990 UNLV Running Rebels. That's one that really sticks out. Um, there hasn't really been that many. I think you could talk about you even mentioned North Carolina when they won their national championship. I mean, that's the only other, but I don't think we've ever had a team that wins the national championship by literally blowing their opponents out by double digits. I don't think we've ever had that ever happen. Um, you know, when it comes to the tournament, sometimes you need the right magic, the right moments to just explode, and UConn had it. So I'm happy for them. I'm thrilled for them. Like you said, um, this was one of the more weirder tournaments we've ever had, and I think we can openly admit it. This tournament was so wide open; anybody could have win it. Um, we were saying it even on the night of the selection special. We even openly admitted that we said there was at least 8 teams out there that could win this. Um, this was one of them that we did not think was going to win it, and they won it. So, hey, credit to them. Credit for the work that they did. They deserve it. Congratulations to UConn winning the national championship. So, yeah, really nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
We go from the men's championship to the women's national championship, as it featured. Well, you thought the men's tournament was unpredictable. How about an equally unpredictable women's tournament, where it was down to LSU and Iowa? I don't think anybody had that in their women's brackets either. LSU defeated Iowa 102-85 to win the 2023 NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, its first ever national championship. The Tigers and Hawkeyes combined for the most points in title game history, while LSU set a record for points by a team in the half. I mean, I'll try to get more information about it, but boy howdy, LSU winning, and Kim Mulkey, rarefied air for her. I don't know if any other coaches have done this before in the women's game, but taking two different schools to a national championship. You remember years ago, she took Baylor to a national championship, and now Coach Mulkey takes LSU to a national championship. I mean, unbelievable story here. And before I give it into the numbers, MF, we started off with you, LSU and Iowa. Women's tournament just as unpredictable as the men's tournament, and LSU walks away with their first ever women's national basketball championship. So, and taking down Iowa, a team that had pretty much the best player in the world, Caitlin Clark, who a lot of people were very high on.
Mm-hmm.
And yet LSU stands as the national champion, 102-85 this past Sunday.
Yeah. And the thing is that I think the fact is that props to the women and what they did. The Final Four for the women was more compelling than the men because of the teams that were in it. You had 3 number ones, and you had, I believe, a number 2 at the end. So it was basically the chalk. The only one that we kind of were a little floored about was, going into the tournament, everybody was like, oh, it's South Carolina. South Carolina's going to win it. They've been the most dominant team all year long and everything else. And the next thing we know, Caitlin Clark in Iowa knocked them out. And that is when the ripple effect started. You had a really good game on the other side when you got West Virginia, Virginia Tech, and LSU, and that literally came down to the wire, and with LSU winning that game. And the thing was, LSU, was the second team, runners up in the SEC tournament, losing to South Carolina, and then West Virginia Tech, winners of the ACC Women's Tournament. They won the ACC Women's Tournament, and they were, making that run, going deep, doing what they needed to do. And then, of course, Iowa winning the Big 12 tournament. They were making a big run. And then, of course, and South Carolina, that everybody thought, oh, they're going to be the national champions when this was all said and done. So the way that the game went down, it was really good. But honestly and truthfully, that national championship game, look, credit to the city of Dallas, credit to the fans. They sold that baby out. It was a sellout. And props to ESPN putting the national championship game on ABC, because more eyes on the game, and it ended up being it worked. The highest rated national championship game, the highest rated college women's basketball game of all time. 9.9 million people saw the final between LSU and South Carolina, LSU and Iowa. And let me tell you, they broke all kinds of records for this. Highest rating during the tournament, throughout the tournament, they were getting record ratings. They were getting attendance records in all of their games. Now, normally first round matchups is at the colleges. They don't do the bubble thing. And then the regional finals was actually divided into two locations. I think it was Seattle was one city, and I think it was Greenville, South Carolina. I think that's where it was the second spot. And half the brackets, the two brackets, and they divided it into four pods. So 1 and 2 went to one side, 3, 4 went to the other part of the country, and then they did the Final Four in Dallas. And what they did was absolutely phenomenal. The tournament was a mega success. Ever since a few years ago, with the bubble and the NCAA and how the women were being disrespected, now you're starting to see why the women deserve the respect that they got. It was a movement that was started, oddly enough, by Kobe Bryant, of all people, to start to put a spotlight on the women's game. And all of a sudden, the NCAA was like, you know what? We got to do this right. Let's give the women the March Madness treatment. They'll get all the endorsements. They'll get the same luxury that the men get, the women will get. And sure enough, that decision has proven to be dividends, because, and I'm going to say this, for the first time ever in the NCAA tournaments, the women did better than the men. They did better ticket sales. They did better with the ratings, because if you look at the ratings, the women actually beat the men in the ratings in the NCAA tournament. The Final Four, you could get a ticket for about maybe $100, $200, depending on where you're going for the men's Final Four. For the women, they were literally the hottest ticket in town. LSU versus Iowa, their average ticket was over $2,000. $2,000 for the cheap seats, the Bob Uecker seats. So you instantly start talking that thing. You're thinking, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Women's basketball, $2,000? Well, the thing was, South Carolina, undefeated. Everybody anointing them the national champions. Iowa, the Lady Hawkeyes, Caitlin Clark, a generational player. Some people called her, well, she was actually, she actually ended up being named the women's college basketball national player of the year. She won the Wooden Award. So she got the version of the Heisman in college basketball as the national player of the year. That game itself lived up to the hype. The LSU versus Virginia Tech lived up to the hype. And then the national championship game, it got dicey in certain areas because LSU jumped out to a big lead. Caitlin Clark tried to make a comeback. They got close, but then LSU started to really start pulling away. But then the referees got involved, and this is where a lot of people got a little angry. Couple of calls that went against Iowa, they thought was a little bit shaky in certain areas. It was a fine championship game. Could have been a lot better in certain areas. And as a matter of fact, I was fortunate enough to at least watch the national championship game on Sunday. I was here at home watching the game because, I was like, you know what? The Rangers are playing later on. I think the Bulls were playing later on in the evening. And the game's on ABC. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a chance. Let me watch the national championship game. I was thoroughly entertained, man. And normally we don't cover the women's game. I think we got to keep a more closer eye on it next year. I'm not saying we do a selection special or anything else like that. But I would definitely say that we should at least put it on the docket to at least recap it and preview the tournament games. Now, I'm not talking full on like NCAA special like we do with the men, but I do believe the women's deserves an opportunity, deserves a platform, and I believe we will provide them that platform next year. When we do the college basketball, once we get into the tournament, I think we're going to start at least consider thinking about adding the women, just talking about the matches, not going, full detail, everything else. But I believe we're going to be covering the women and especially the Final Four next year.
Agreed. I mean, with the overwhelming success of this tournament, especially the final, and especially how Caitlin Clark took no prisoners, kicked ass, and took all kinds of names. I mean, oh yeah. So
she couldn't take out the Bayou Barbie though. No. That was the only one she could not take down.
Let me tell you something about that young lady. She is going to be a star.
Oh yeah,
big star.
WNBA, get ready. Caitlin Clark, not only that, but UConn's going to be a dangerous team next year because Paige Beckers was out with an injury. Paige Beckers was, without a doubt, the best player in college basketball last year. It wasn't until South Carolina took UConn out. And then that's when everybody was talking about South Carolina being the most dominant team because Paige Beckers and UConn was the favorite. And then South Carolina took them out. And that's when South Carolina started their run at a dynasty. Or their attempt at a dynasty level.
That's something, man. I mean, yeah, without a doubt, next year we will most certainly provide more coverage when it comes to the women's tournament, especially after the success of that championship game, that incredibly rated title game. I mean, I saw those numbers. I was like, wow, unbelievable. That's something else. So, all right, breaking it all down here. Caitlin Clark, of course, led Iowa 30 points. She had 8 assists to lead Iowa. Morris led LSU with 21. And I mean, listen to these numbers. I just pulled up the numbers. Insane numbers here. LSU shot 54.3% from the field. Iowa, an even 50%. 3-point shooting. LSU, or I should say Iowa was 14 out of 30 for 46.7%, about 47% from three. That's pretty good. LSU, listen to this. LSU, MF, 11 out of 17 for three, to the tune of almost 65% from three.
That was
65% from three.
That was one of the reasons why LSU won the national championship, because of the fact that every time Iowa was making a run, LSU was hitting at least 1 or 2 threes, and that's when the lead went back up, and Iowa just could not hang. When they were hitting those threes, and like I said, I was watching the game on Sunday when Iowa was making a run, but then LSU nailed like 2 threes in a row and got the lead back up to like 8. It was in like the fourth quarter with like about, I want to say about 6 minutes left. That was the moment I was like, it's over.
65% from three. That is wow. You only see numbers like that if you're playing a video game or something.
If you're playing 2K or NBA Live, yeah. If you hit 65%, you're 9 times out of 10 you're winning.
Yeah, think. Unbelievable. The free throw shooting was even. Iowa was 15 of 20 for 75%. LSU 15 of 21, 71.4%. Rebounding edge was LSU 14-7 on the offensive side, 23-19 on the defensive side. LSU had the overall rebounding edge, 37-26. LSU 22 assists, Iowa 20. LSU 8 steals, Iowa 7. Iowa had 5 blocks to LSU's 3. LSU committed 12 total turnovers. Iowa committed 16 turnovers. 18 fouls on LSU, 19 fouls on Iowa. Iowa did commit a technical foul. Iowa's largest lead was 4. LSU's largest lead, 21. And that's why the LSU Lady Tigers are your national champions in 2023. Absolutely impressive. Well-deserved national championship. And I don't know what else there is to say except now we're going to move on to we got ourselves a UFC pay-per-view coming up. We got a UFC pay-per-view coming up this Saturday night from Miami, Florida, as it will be UFC 287. That'll be going down this Saturday night on pay-per-view through, I believe it's going to be through ESPN and ESPN Plus or something like that. So I don't know if MF's ready to take us through it, but all right, I guess MF's ready to go. So with that, I will turn the mic over to good old MF Michael Fletcher. MF, UFC 287 this Saturday night. What's going on?
Yeah, well, as many of you guys know, now that, Endeavor is working on this deal, they made this deal to merge the WWE and UFC. The big announcement that we're going to be making is that from now on, starting this week, every UFC event will be previewed and reviewed either on this show on TXN Sports World or the Cerebral Smack Talk. This will be exclusive, never been done before. And of course, I will be doing that. It is a big announcement that I wanted that was made. Anthony Florio made the announcement that he wanted it to be on the docket. And now, not only will it be on the docket, it's now permanent. We are doing UFC coverage on either Cerebral Smack Talk or on the shows. The only reason why I'm saying Cerebral Smack Talk will also have it because due to our NFL and college football commitments, especially in the fall, it will be exclusively to the Cerebral Smack Talk. If it's once the football season's not around, or if there's or during this off period, then we'll have the show. We'll do the previews and recaps right here on TXN Sports World. So that's why you gotta have to keep a close eye, because once we get into the football season, it will shift. But until then, UFC 287 going down from Miami, Florida this week. And yeah, we got ourselves 13 fights on the docket. The first fight will be exclusively on ESPN Plus. And what we start off with is Jacqueline Antoniam, and she's going up against Sam Hughes. Jacqueline's undefeated, 6-0, and Sam Hughes at 7-5. This is in the strawweight division, the UFC women's strawweight division. Then we have Shailin Nakagarchi from China. He's going up against Steve Garcia in the featherweight division. This is also a pre-prelim fight that will be on UFC Fight Pass, or I should say on ESPN Plus. Then we got Indigo Bermanes versus Trey Ogden. This is a catchweight fight. So this is a catchweight fight, and this one will be going down. This one will be going down as both men was supposed to be at the 160 range. They did it, so we got that one. Right after that, which is, let me see. All right, so right after that, then we have ourselves Cynthia Cavallo. She's going up against Lupi Garza. Cynthia 9-5-1. Lupi is actually 8-3, and this is also in the UFC strawweight division. This is 115 pounds. Then this is where now we get into the main. This is the main card prelims, ESPN and ESPN Plus. So we start off with Carl Williams, 8-1, going up against Chase Sherman in the heavyweight division. Then we have Joe Pfizer. He's going up against Gerald Masichart. This is in the middleweight division. Then we got ourselves a good one. This is actually one of the good main card preliminary fights, as it is Michelle Waterman Gomez. Yes. And she's going to be going up against Laura Pachero in the strawweight division. And the main event of the preliminary fights exclusively on ESPN, it will be Chris Curtis going up against Kevin Gustafson. This one's a big fight. Kevin Gustafson has been unbelievable lately. This is a mega fight for him, and in the middleweight division as well. Then once we get into that, now we go into the main card. on pay-per-view exclusively on ESPN Plus, 10 p.m. start time. And we start out in the bantamweight division as it is Raul Rojas Jr., 7-0, undefeated, going up against Christian Rodriguez, who's 8-1 in his career. So that is one of those that's going to be good. Then in the welterweight division, we have ourselves is Kevin Holland, 23 wins with 9 losses. He goes up against Argentina's own Santiago Pazabiro. That one will be a very interesting fight. Then the third fight from in the bantamweight division, as it will be Rob Font against Adrian Yanez. Rob from Puerto Rico, 19 wins, 6 losses, goes up against Adrian Yanez, 16 wins with 3 losses. That will be in the bantamweight division. Co-main event of the evening, as it will be Gilbert Burns, 21 wins, 5 losses from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, goes up against Mr. 305 himself, Gamebred, Jorge Masvidal from America Top Team, 35 wins, 16 losses in his illustrious career. And the winner of this one maybe is a future contender for the welterweight championship of the world. We'll wait and see. In the main event, it is a 5-round UFC middleweight championship fight. The champion, Alex Pereira, going up against the last style bender, Israel Adesanya. 23 wins, 2 losses. Of course, Adesanya lost to Pereira in dominating fashion. Pereira absolutely took Adesanya out, destroyed him in 5 rounds. It was a decision victory. Adesanya looking for payback, looking for revenge, and now gets a shot to not only get that revenge, but regain the UFC middleweight championship of the world. That fight, like I said, goes down this Saturday night. Now, for all you fans, early prelim fight starts at 6 o'clock. That's going to be on ESPN Plus. Then at 8 o'clock is the preliminary fights. And then, of course, pay-per-view, the main card, that will be going down. And like I said, 1 week from tonight, we will recap everything. And I do believe there's another UFC event right behind that, too. Let me see, just to make sure. Yes, there will be another UFC. This will be a fight night. This will be at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'll preview that fight card next week on this show. So with that said, as a matter of fact, we got a whole for the next for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, we're gonna have a lot of UFC talk. So we'll be recapping one, previewing another, recapping one, previewing another. We're gonna be doing this for the next month and a half, Florio. So we got some UFC content working here, and there's also some boxing that I'm also going to be adding along with the docket as well. So, yeah, we're going to have a little bit of some stuff to work with. Even though the docket might be short, we got some stuff to work with. So, Florio, back to you.
Wow, that's something, and sounds like a good event, and always good to get a title bout on there. And yeah, I honestly thought it was going to be just the pay-per-views, but all right, we can certainly get into the other stuff as well. Absolutely. I mean, especially with this new deal with Endeavor and WWE. So, yeah, most definitely. So, at least we got some stuff for future dockets. That's good. So look forward to that on Saturday night. And now we move on to our main event of the week, which is our preview of Week 8 of the XFL. And well, we're getting close. We are without a doubt getting very close to the end of the regular season. I think we only have another month or so before another few more weeks or so. So the XFL is coming off another exciting week of action as the Orlando Guardians pulled off an incredible 37-36 upset win over the DC Defenders, giving Orlando their first win and handing DC its first loss on the season. The Guardians were 9.5-point underdogs and have continued to be one of the better teams against the spread in the XFL this season, 4-3. Overall, and that's all there. Week 8 begins on Saturday with a doubleheader starting at 1 p.m. Eastern between the Vegas Vipers and St. Louis Battlehawks on ESPN. After that, the Arlington Renegades will look to bounce back from a tough loss last week to Seattle as they go on the road to play the Orlando Guardians at 4 p.m. on ESPN. On Sunday, we have another doubleheader as the Houston Roughnecks will try to snap their 3-game losing streak against the San Antonio Brahmas at 3 on ABC. And finally, to wrap up Week 8, the DC Defenders. In the game of the week, the DC Defenders will travel to the Pacific Northwest to play the Seattle Sea Dragons at 7 p.m. on ESPN2. So with that, let's break it down. First on the docket, it's the number 2 game of the week, as it will feature the Vegas Vipers squaring off against the St. Louis Battlehawks from the Dome at America Center in St. Louis, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday on ESPN. St. Louis opening up as a 7.5-point favorite. The Vipers had one of their best offensive performances of the season in last week's 26-12 win over the San Antonio Brahmas. Jalen McClendon, who was making his XFL debut, brought a spark to Vegas' offense, completing 21 of 31 passes for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added 25 rushing yards on the ground, which helped the Vipers' running game. McClendon will try to carry that momentum into Saturday's game against the Battlehawks, who handed the Houston Roughnecks their 3rd straight loss last week. When St. Louis played Vegas a couple weeks ago, Battlehawks quarterback A.J. McCarron picked apart the Viper defense, completing 23 of 29 passes for 236 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Vipers' offense could not get anything done with Brett Hundley or Luis Perez, as the Battlehawks forced Perez into 2 interceptions and recorded 4 total sacks. Looking forward to Saturday's game, we should expect another solid showing from Vegas' offense despite the Battlehawks' defense, allowing 15 points a game in their last 4 games. The Vipers hope to have standout wide receiver Jeff Bidet, who did not practice on Tuesday or Wednesday due to a thigh injury. Lastly, we must give St. Louis credit for going on the road and beating the Roughnecks, even though they were missing some key players. So I'm going to go with St. Louis, who I feel has the far more explosive offense and is 5-2 against the spread this season. So I'm going with the St. Louis Battlehawks to win this game. My final score, 30-21. St. Louis defeats Vegas. So not much more to say. MF, your thoughts on the number 2 game of the week, St. Louis in Vegas, to kick off Week 8 of the XFL at the Dome at America Center.
I totally agree with everything you just said, Aaron Anthony. I also got St. Louis winning this game as well. I just feel like they're going to be the better team more than anything else. So, I got St. Louis as well. And, it's back to you.
All right, MF, and we move on to the next game that you'll be starting off on, the second half of that Saturday afternoon doubleheader. Saturday at 4 p.m. on ESPN, we will have the Arlington Renegades squaring off against the Orlando Guardians, Camping World Stadium, formerly the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. And believe it or not, Orlando is actually opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. And MF, can you believe that? And Orlando coming off, if you can believe this, Orlando coming off the biggest upset of the XFL season, knocking the DC Defenders from the ranks of the unbeaten in what was, without a doubt, the game of the year in the XFL. Unbelievable.
Reason why I think they're doing that is because think about this. The first time these two teams met, which was in Arlington, Orlando, uh, Arlington only won that game by 10-9. Then on top of that, the last two games that Arlington played, they lost to Seattle and lost to San Antonio. Even though they were close games, they both lost. And I think everybody is still riding the high from Orlando because of the fact that they won that game and beat DC the way they did at home. I think they're thinking Lightning is going to strike twice, and that's why you're seeing them. Uh, that's why you see a lot of people picking DC. I mean, picking Orlando to pull the upset. Now, do I think it's possible? It's possible, but do I think it's gonna? I'm not. I'm not one to say yes on this. I'm not completely sold. I think the Renegades will bounce back, and I think they'll get the job done. So I got the Renegades winning this game. So Anthony, it's yours.
The Guardians are shockingly favorites to win this week after picking up their first win this season over the formerly undefeated DC Defenders. Orlando seems to have found their identity on offense with Quinton Dormady under center. Dormady was outstanding in last weekend's win, completing 27 of 34 passes, 328 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He also scored 3 rushing touchdowns, making it one of the best performances we saw this season. Dormandy's play over the last few weeks gives Orlando an edge at quarterback, even though Arlington has Luis Perez and added former Mizzou Clemson quarterback Kelly Bryant this season. However, it's tough to see Perez making this Arlington offense significantly better than it was with Drew Plitt or Kyle Sloter. If the Renegades want to win, they need their defense to lead the charge. Arlington's defense is giving up 18 points a game this season, third fewest in the XFL, and about 82 rushing yards a game, third fewest. It might be a low-scoring game, as the Renegades' over-under record is 2-5. However, the Guardians have figured something out and have not quit on the season. So, MF, I'm actually going to disagree with you. I'm actually going to go for another upset here. I'm going to say Orlando does it again. 18-15. Orlando upsets Arlington. But if Arlington were to win, I would not be surprised at all. All right. Now we move on to the Sunday games, and we have this game Sunday afternoon at 3 over on ABC, featuring the Houston Roughnecks squaring off against the San Antonio Brahmas from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Houston opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. The Roughnecks suffered their third straight loss last week to the St. Louis Battlehawks. Houston did not have starting quarterback and standout linebacker Tim Ward, who both were out with injury. Cole McDonald got the start, completing 15 of 32 for 106 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. He was also the team's second leading rusher with 40 yards on 8 carries. The Roughnecks offense has looked completely different without Jontre Kirkland, who was a playmaker alongside Deontay Burnett. Houston had Cedric Byrd step up last week, seven catches for 50 yards, and they added former Chargers wide receiver Michael Vandy, but it wasn't enough. Houston will hope to have Silvers back under center this weekend because the Renegades and Brahmas still have a shot to win the XFL South Division. Speaking of the San Antonio Brahmas, they lost another starting quarterback to an injury as Kurt Benkert fractured his ribs in last week's loss. With Benkert done for the rest of the season, San Antonio will start Jack Cohn, who missed the last 2 games due to an injury of his own, per Greg Luca of the San Antonio Express News. However, it wouldn't be a surprise to see Paxton Lynch play on Sunday afternoon, who was signed earlier this week after starting the season with Orlando. Nevertheless, the Brahmas offense is in shambles, and this is a get-right spot for the Houston Roughnecks, who have championship aspirations. So I believe the Houston Roughnecks will bounce back and snap their 3-game losing streak. I got Houston winning this game 24-12. Houston bounces back. MF, they got to bounce back. I mean, they started out as a heavy favorite. They've now lost 3 in a row. God forbid what happens if they lose yet again.
Agreed. Everything was going great for them, and then all of a sudden they kind of stumbled. And I kind of feel like Houston's got to bounce back here. They've been they've been playing on the Razor's Edge for a little while now. I don't think they're gonna play on the Razor's Edge now. I think they'll bounce back. They'll get the win here. So yeah, there's really nothing more for me to say. So Anthony, it's yours.
And the final game of the week, Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2, the game of the week. The DC Defenders squaring off against the Seattle Sea Dragons from Lumen Field in Seattle. Seattle opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. MF, who do you got for the game of the week between DC and Seattle?
It's tough. This is weird because at first I would say, DC easy. I'm not sure anymore. I kind of feel like everything just kind of went a little haywire over here. So, do I think it could be everything? We'll see. But right now, the way I feel it goes, I honestly, truthfully believe that when it's all said and done, um, I think it's gonna be I, I gotta go with Seattle. I don't know why. I feel like Seattle's gonna win this. So Florio, I'm taking a big chance here, and it's yours.
In the final game of Week 8, we have a Week 1 rematch between the DC Defenders and Seattle Sea Dragons. Seattle has won 5 straight games, putting it in a position to be first in the XFL's North Division. Meanwhile, the Defenders are coming off a tough 1-point loss to the Orlando Guardians last weekend. DC had a chance to win the game at the end, but kicker Matthew McCrane missed a 63-yard field goal attempt. However, one could make the case it probably shouldn't have come down to that if the Defenders' defense played better. The Defenders' defense had one of their worst performances this season, allowing Quinton Dormady to throw for 328 yards and score 6 total touchdowns. The Defenders did not force Dormady into any turnovers and had only 3 sacks. That doesn't bode well heading into Sunday night's game against the Sea Dragons, who are scoring 23.2 points a game in their last 5 games. Seattle also added former NFL running back Philip Lindsay, giving it an explosive option out of the backfield. This should be an excellent game to end Week 8 as the Defenders try to pull off the 2-game season sweep. It'll be highly contested, with both teams doing what they do best. But I believe the Defenders will prove that last week's loss was a fluke and snap Seattle's 5-game winning streak. So I'm going with DC to win this game, 28-25. And that's really all there is to say on that. And with that, that'll put the bow on this rather short docket edition of TXN Sports World. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We'll be back with you tomorrow night, 11 p.m., immediately following Rampage, right back. Well, actually, it'll be over on MF's channel, Braves Fan 95, for the Cerebral Smack Talk. Friday night SmackDown. Triple H is going to address the WWE Universe. We'll see if it's anything like Monday night or if is something going to come out of that. I don't know. We'll have to find out. 3 matches have been announced. Sami Zayn will go one-on-one with Jey Uso. Imperium against the Brawling Brutes. And Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar against Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest. That'll be in Portland tomorrow night. We got Michael Bullock coming in, so let's bring him on in. So we're gonna get Bullock's thoughts on everything. So Michael Bullock, come on in. We got some quick thoughts here for you. First up, the UConn Huskies, the winners of the men's national championship. Yep, MF, you're all set. So Michael Bullock, come on in. We got the UConn Huskies winning the men's national championship, defeating San Diego State 76-59. And hey, UConn bringing home their 5th national championship and brings it back to the Big East Conference for the first time since Villanova brought it home in 2018. Have you ever seen a more dominant run by the UConn Huskies in this tournament?
No, I haven't seen a dominant run like this in a really long time. I mean, and what can you say about the UConn Huskies? I mean, they just not many people gave them a chance, and here they are, and they just basically had a pretty good run here in the and especially and what Dan Hurley, and let's not forget, Florio, Dan Hurley used to be the coach of the URI Rams,
Yeah.
and now what he's done to go from the URI Rams and what he's done with the Yukon Huskies is just unbelievable. I mean, congratulations to that school for another national championship, and they're probably going to be underdogs, of course, going into next season. But I'll tell you what, Dan Hurley he's going to have this team ready to defend its title. But they're and by the way, Florio, I think UConn's more from the that other conference. It's not the Big East.
The American.
Yeah, that's what you meant to say. So I just wanted to correct you on that.
Yes.
So yeah, congratulations to UConn on another championship, and yeah, there's really nothing more to say. So let's move on to our next thing that I'm going to get into.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the UConn Huskies, they won that national championship with the American Conference when they won it in 2014, and but they're back in the Big East now. And
they're back in the Big East.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't know this.
You thought, yeah, I know. It flew under the radar, I know, but no. UConn's back in the Big East, so the Big East has the national championship. Our conference has the national championship trophy back in possession. So they brought it home. So
yes, they certainly brought it home.
Yep. Won every game by double digits. Their closest margin of victory was 13. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and you call that closest? That doesn't smell like it to me. But that just shows you how dominant Connecticut was throughout this tournament.
Every win by double digits.
Yeah, nobody else could.
They more than deserve that championship. And speaking of championships, and we go from the men's championship to the women's national championship. LSU defeating Iowa 102-85. LSU wins the women's national championship, and they did so despite who was far and away the best player in this tournament, and a young lady that I know you're very high on, Michael Bullock, and that's Caitlin Clark, who is going to be a star when she gets older. She is going to be a big star. Bank on it.
Oh, I believe she's going to be a big star. I mean, what she did for this Iowa team definitely was something to remember. But let's give credit where credit is due to the champs, the LSU, and what they were able to do in this national championship. I mean, they basically, they were able to control her, and but yeah, I mean, nobody gave LSU a chance in this game, but all I can say is, I mean, they went up against all odds, and they took out Iowa and Caitlin Clark. But yeah, and like you said, LSU may have won it, but I think everybody's still going to be talking about Caitlin Clark, and she's going to be a big time star when she's going to be a big star when she goes up to the WNBA. I'll tell you that right now. And whoever's got the number one pick, I mean, I don't know if she's coming back for another year in Iowa, but I'll tell you what, whenever she does come out, and whoever gets the number one pick, they're gonna want Caitlin Clark. I'll tell you that right now.
All right, and then from there, MF previewed the UFC pay-per-view, so I know you don't cover that, but we'll get into the XFL. The only other order of business here. First game of the week will be on Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. on ESPN. The Vegas Vipers against the St. Louis Battlehawks from the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis. St. Louis opening up as a 7.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to go with St. Louis to win this one.
And then the other half of the Saturday doubleheader, Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. on ESPN, the Arlington Renegades going up against the Orlando Guardians at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. Orlando opening up as a 1.5-point favorite, coming off the biggest upset of the year when they upset the previously unbeaten DC Defenders in what was the game of the year in the XFL so far.
Man, oh man! I mean, that to me was an impressive victory. And you know what? I mean, after what they did last week, I think they could pull up another win here. So,
agreed.
I'm actually going to go with Orlando to win it. I mean, if they could do it, if they were able to pull it off last week, I think they could definitely do it this week.
I agree. And then to the Sunday slate, Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. on ABC, the Houston Roughnecks look to snap their 3-game losing streak as they square off against the San Antonio Brahmas at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Houston opening up as a 5.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I think this is where the losing streak ends for Houston. So I'm going with Houston to win it.
In the main event, Sunday night at 7 on ESPN2, the game of the week in the XFL, the DC Defenders against the Seattle Sea Dragons, Lumen Field in Seattle, and Seattle opening up as a 1.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Seattle in this one, but I think this is gonna be a really close one.
All right, and with that will now put the bow on this shortened edition, this small docket edition of TXN Sports World. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We'll be back with you again tomorrow night, 11 p.m. over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95, for another edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, as we will address Friday Night SmackDown from Portland, Oregon. Triple H.
A critical Friday Night SmackDown.
Very critical. Triple H will be addressing the WWE Universe. We'll see if it's anything, if it's going to be pretty much the same thing as we saw on Monday, or if it's going to be something different. I pray it's going to be something different. We'll have to wait and find out. But
well, according to Derek, he thinks it's going to be something bad because, as he said in his video, Vince is forcing Triple H to lie again.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
And you know what? I hate to say this, Florio. I think Derek could be right on this one.
I think so too.
Because the thing is, with him running creative control again, he's going to force some of his employees to lie in front of the camera. I mean, look, he was forcing Nick Khan to lie, and now doing it to his own son-in-law, which is a damn shame.
It is a damn shame, and we'll wait and see what happens with that. But we have 3 matches on the docket. We do have Sami Zayn going up against Jey Uso. We got Imperium against the Brawling Brutes. And we also have Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar teaming up against Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest. So
the newly reformed Latino World Order.
Indeed. So we'll review all of that as part of Friday Night SmackDown. And then we'll also get into AEW Rampage, which will be in our neck of the woods, Kingston, Rhode Island, the University of Rhode Island, the Ryan Center. Our dear friend Ryan Abedizian is going to be at that show. So we wish him the very best with that. Hopefully he enjoys himself and has a great night. And then in the Mikey's Mindset, MF will recap the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor event that went down last week. So MF will give the results of that. And then we started all again Monday, Ridiculously Raw, Monday Night Raw. We'll see what happens in Seattle. We got Becky Lynch and Lita defending the Women's Tag Team Championships against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. We've also got, and we also have Matt Riddle going one-on-one with The Miz. So we'll see what happens on Monday. Tony's Take with I'll be back to my normal Tony's Take with Impact Wrestling and NXT Level Up. Wednesday, we got Wednesday Night Madness hosted by good old MF Michael Fletcher. Wednesday Night Madness, NXT, AEW Dynamite. And then Thursday night, TXN Sports World. MF will recap the UFC pay-per-view as well as talk about the next UFC fight night. MF will get into those. We'll also preview week 9 of the XFL. And we'll also be, and in the main event, we're going to be previewing the NBA playoffs. Yes, the NBA playoffs. We're going to be previewing that. and maybe we'll get into some. And I think the USFL starts up, so we'll get into that as well. So we'll get all that squared away for next week, and that's it. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smat Talk over on the MEPS channel, Braceway 95. Anthony Florio here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, good old MF Michael Fletcher, and always and forever the First Lady Dee Woodson. You're the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Portrait Force style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Friday, and until tomorrow night, for the Cerebral Smat Talk, you've been watching TXN Sports World right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and Streaming.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio. So long. Bye, everybody. Bye.